Okay, thank you very much for everybody to honour that 1 minute silence. If you haven't already, we have the Wi-Fi network up, the password's up there, so please do access, share. If you haven't already as well, please do download the Event Talks app from either the App Store or the iOS Store. You can see what the agenda is, but you can also, more importantly, ask questions to these guys here at the panelists through the Me Too button. So if you just search for Event Tech Talks or ETT17 on the app stores, you should be able to find the app. Log in there. It's your email address that you registered with, and the password is ETT17, I believe, isn't it, Chris? That'll get you in. Any problems, put your hand up and somebody will come and help you out. Ask as many questions as you want. These guys are the experts. I'm just here to ask your questions and a few of my questions that I've got as well. First of all, I'll let you guys introduce yourselves because you'll probably do a lot better job than me. Mykyta, would you like to go first? Tell people a little bit about your background.
Sure. So my name is Mykyta Fastovets. I'm the CTO at Expo Platform. We are a technology company that has started off as thinking, let's provide kind of a suite of different tech solutions to where we really think about the customer journey through an event, and we try to connect different bits of technology. And we kind of have a, let's say, 365 sort of experience platform where we try to connect everything. My own background before I got into events is actually in computer vision. So the the talk that we had last month, about AR, VR was kind of the area that I was in before to some extent. So I'm sort of an academic tech background, and now I'm in events. There we go.
Perfect. Okay, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name's Kirk D'Cruze. I work for DRP Group. Basically, DRP Group, there's many different divisions at DRP Group. We do like the events management, we do technical production, there's also design, graphics, but I work in digital department of DRP Group, and I look after a team that basically specialises in the event side of digital. So we do like event websites, event apps, iPad solutions, sign-in solutions. So I manage that team, basically.
And Chris?
Good evening. My name's Chris Cloughley. I'm Managing Director, co-founder and co-owner of Works Marketing Communications, Works MC, Works Digital, and for the last 20 years we've been building digital solutions to marketing challenges. Through my frustration as a delegate and also as a company owner whose team run and manage events, I built and created Event Powwow out of frustration. So I'm here today really from that angle, the Event Powwow angle, more than the Marcoms angle. But actually I think both could possibly come out as being a benefit tonight, I hope.
Okay. Just as well, if you do want to go the old-fashioned route and ask a question with putting your hand up, we've got one of these fancy catch boxes here. I can throw it at you. If I hit you, I do apologise. That's not my fault. I think the first things, as the session says tonight, we're here to learn what or how we can go about creating great event websites and apps, and most importantly, the experience when people use those products as part of our event. It tends to be the first touch point that anybody has when they're actually coming to an event or interested in an event. Google to the website, and that's their first impression of you. So ultimately it's important to even get the right message across or have that right impression for your target audience. If we can go, we'll work with Chris backwards. What's some tips or what's some important things that you would look at when delivering a website in order to provide a good experience, both from a user interface point of view, but from an information portrayal point of view?
Right. I'm not on the technical side of this, so I'm not going to bore you with technical, but I would start with a really simple question. Why? Start with simple. And I know it sounds simple, but I sit in so many briefing meetings and people go, we need this, we need that, and they never ask themselves the question, why? Why do we think we need it? So apps is a good example. How many people download apps? At the moment, the average is about 50 to 60%, if you believe all the reports that you read. So actually, depending on the type of event, conference, exhibition, whatever it might be, you have to ask yourself the question, why? Why would you want to do it? Is it for engagement purposes? Is it because your boss has told you that you have to have it? Is it a perception issue? Same with the website. Why do we have to have one? Because until you understand the why, you can't actually answer the question of, well, what does it need to do? What does it need to deliver? And then we get into who's the target audience and all those things. But I think for me, the start point to anything is really understanding the why, and then being able to work backwards depending on what your budget situation is. A lot of companies will have the budgets. They don't have to ask about ROI, but there's a lot of other companies do have to generate return on investment. So again, that comes back to how much do you want to spend. You also have to look at things like internal resources. I was speaking to someone earlier on, with any technology, websites, apps, and all the rest of it, you have to think also about who's going to run it, who's going to manage it, what your internal systems are, because you can overspend quite easily and then bring stuff in that actually isn't needed, it isn't qualified. You don't have the systems internally to be able to manage it. You don't have the resources to be able to manage it. So for me, that question of why sounds a really simple question, but actually at the front end, if you spend 80% of your time thinking more about the why, it should make the back end of what you actually create and what you get will be more fit for purpose and give a better ROI.
Kirk, you probably work with a lot of brands that want, I suppose, a flashy website, a very impressive website, an engaging website. What's the process that DRP uses, the digital team, to kind of tease out what's important, the why, and then ultimately deliver a product that they're happy with?
Yeah. Basically, I agree with Chris there. You know, it is important. Why do they want the website? Why do they want the app? But then, you know, once you've got past that stage, it's basically understanding your audience. You know, because with the event website, like Adam says, basically, you know, it's the first impression of that event. Basically, that's the first stage of, you know, a journey they're going on. So it needs to create that right impression. But the audience also can be, you know, it's a varied audience. It's like age, it could be young, old people, but also you might get people who are used to using websites, apps. But if people, you know, with some of our companies, they don't always work in an office. They might work on the shop floor or something. So, you know, they might not be using computer apps every day. So you've got to make sure the product that you do come up with is easy to use. You know, it's you've got to think of the user basically, and you know, it's got to keep it simple so that they use it and they're going to engage with that product.
And Mykyta, what about you? Do you go through a different process, or do you have a similar process? Is there anything you can add?
So from our end, I'd say that I totally agree with the why, and I think that is the most important question you've got to ask. Like, and I would even go back a step away from that and say, what's the value that my event is delivering? And then based on that, I'd say, what is the value that my website should deliver? And I would say from our experience and from what we sort of see and think, it's that the website isn't just a website anymore. It should deliver a little bit of some kind of extra value. So what we find is that if the website is able to deliver some of the value, perhaps, that the event could deliver, like maybe a taster or something like that, that actually can be a valuable experience for the organizer and for those who engage with that site. So it's a way to get people to connect instantly to what you're doing and what you're trying to do. But yeah, the why is definitely the right first question, and then the how.
So from my experience, I see a wide range of event websites. Obviously, with my role as the editor, the first touch point for me, generally when I'm looking at an event or a media owner, is I go to the website and try and find some information. And the range of, I suppose, website experiences out there are massive. Some don't feel like they've not been updated for 10 years. Others feel like they've actually got too much going off in terms of they've tried to do too much with the event website, thrown too many features at it. And sometimes it's actually hard to find the information that I am looking for. What are some of the features that you guys feel are like the core things that you should definitely, absolutely 100% include in an event website? And maybe also expand on that, what some of the, I don't want to say cool features because that might be the wrong word to use, but some of the new features that are coming out in terms of being able to provide information and content to potential attendees that are actually converting people into users or attendees, etc. Kirk, do you maybe want to start?
Yeah. Yeah, basically when we're doing an event website, like I say, you know, it's going to be the first impression. So what you want is the important information. Basically what people want to know is when's the event going to take place, where it's going to take place. They need to, because they need to book cover, or and also personal reasons, if they need to book childcare or something. So you've got to get the important things out there first of all, and you've got to make sure it's like on the first page, so they know, this is why we want to go to this event. You've got to make it, you've got to tease them with the event as well to give them a reason to go to the event. So maybe if you're going to show like the speakers who are going to be there, or just what the audience is going to get out of the event, basically. So that's the key information you need to get out there first of all. And then the event website itself is basically doing the registration form, and as the organizer, you need to make sure you're asking the correct questions on that registration form. So it's making your lives easier, or the organiser's lives easier as well, basically. So you don't have to keep going back and asking another question. So that's the most important thing on like an event website, I'd say. With like the new features, I suppose, it's again, like on the apps, it's probably, you want to make sure everything's on their phone on the day, basically. So again, agenda, where the breakout sessions are going to be, where they need to be, which rooms they need to be in, or ability to ask questions, take part in polls. So it's all the standard stuff, but the stuff that's going to benefit them basically during that event, I believe.
We've used a lot of video content on our events in the past. It provides a bit of a hub for people to go and get an experience of what they may have missed the year before if they didn't attend. It's obviously an opportunity for us to reshare the content that we've done. So I'm a strong believer that even simple things like with the Event Tech Talks website, we put in there a YouTube channel of the previous content, so people can come and get a feel and look and understand the event that they've previously missed, or they might want to share that content with colleagues or other potential people that they might want to be an attendee, and that's worked quite well in terms of generating new registrations for us and stuff like that. Have you two guys got any other kind of features that you think is kind of key in terms of providing a good experience or a good event website?
I mean, I can expand a little bit on what I said before about sort of providing a little slice of what's to come maybe for the event. So, I mean, depending on the type of event, it may be that you have a community around that event already, or you may wish to provide sort of the tools for a community to communicate or to exist. So you can start exposing various things. For example, you mentioned agendas, but make it a little bit more interactive. Make people be able to get in touch with one another, for example, before the event takes place. So kind of create, rather than thinking about it as just a website with some static information, what about engaging those who land on it and getting them always to that registration because they've seen something that genuinely you provide, but you're able to get them very close to kind of touching the value. And then you convert that into a registration, and then hopefully, you keep them engaged, maybe again through the website up until the point where they turn up to the event. So in terms of, I think that was quite general, but like things like, giving them the ability to see who else is coming, for example, letting them interact in some way, maybe building their agenda is a good one as well. Make it interactive. You spend some time on there, I don't know, book an appointment if that's the kind of event it is. You get engaged, you've invested some time, you now want to come to the event, even if it's free, right? Especially if it's free, you want to be engaged. You want to engage your client as the organizer.
And we've spoken about this a number of times about the idea that a website can be I suppose a 365-day platform, potentially, although it does seem quite a challenge to achieve that. We've mentioned things like forums before, or internal networking. Like that. Is that now, or do you think that's in the future?
I think so. From the data that we are getting, the before the event part is working really well, and people are engaging quite well because there's value in being able to say, I want to commit or I don't want to commit to this event based on what I see, and then we're seeing that working out quite well. The challenge really is after, and if we kind of abstract ourselves from, let's if we forget about website and app distinction and just say we've got like a digital presence, let's say for an event, and we've got a continuous, and I believe this is one of the factors to be considered. We should have a seamless sort of journey throughout these mediums, right? if we look at that and then we say, we analyze, where are people actually stopping to engage with our website or digital presence? The after is the bit that's suffering, and we're looking for an answer, right? And trying to give a community and content, those two things, trying to provide that through the website is certainly something we're experimenting with, and we're going to keep experimenting with. But I think for now, no one's really cracked the after bit, whereas the before is more or less clear-cut. That's my sort of take on it at the moment.
And Chris, your platform is predominantly a multi-event platform. What are some of the key features that you guys have got that you find that clients really buy into or value in terms of its interface for the attendees?
Well, Event Power was, to answer the question originally, what makes a good website, it depends who you are in that. If you're the administrator of the website, you want it really simple to administer. Event Power has this one single CMS that drives both the website and the native app, so it simplifies, it gives consistency of information. That was something that came out. If you're a user and you're going to the website, then you will be looking for different things, and it's quite hard to generalize because, for instance, if you profile who your audience is, if it's a B2B audience, if it's an entertainment B2C type audience, people are going to want different experiences. If I'm going to an event that's all about entertainment, I don't really probably want to do an awful lot of reading, which is where things like video comes in, and you can use techniques. I'm there to be entertained. It's part of the process. Yeah, I'm going to an entertainment. The event site should entertain me to a degree. But again, where you profile your audiences on a B2B side, there's no reason why you shouldn't talk to your audiences in different ways. So you can stream them through the website. We have Pearl's personalized URLs coming through now. So again, it sounds like broken record, but it comes back to the reason of why. We talked about why you want a website as someone who's building it. You also have to ask yourself, why would the person reading this website want to engage? Why would they want to come to this event? And again, you have to assume that the website is not in itself the end result. The end result is that you're using the website as a tool to get people to do something. So what a lot of websites for me miss is a very clear call to action. What's the rationale? Work backwards from what do I want this person to do? And then work from that back to the front of, now, where do I need to take them in order to get them to do that? And that will differ dependent on B2B, B2C, what the profile, the user segmentation, etc. So unfortunately, it's not an easy answer, but these are the considerations you have to take in order to make something that is compelling whenever you're not sat face to face with someone.
How important is a mobile experience over a desktop experience these days, do you think? Do we focus more on the mobile experience than the desktop? Is that becoming the latter?
I think, again, from our experience, I think probably with our clients, the event website pre-event is desktop, I'd say more, because, usually our clients or our delegates are going to be based, either in an office location or home base, so probably that's where the desktop. But yeah, and then basically but all the websites we build are fully responsive as well, because again, people might be accessing it on, any device. There's so many devices out there nowadays. But yeah, and then when you actually get to the event stage, that's where it's going to be, more your mobiles.
And in terms of, there's also, I've got a question around accessibility, which is, we've talked earlier about making great event websites, but for me that should be an inclusive thing. And in certain instances, we have people that are less hard of hearing, or sight, etc. What are some of the things that we need to be aware of as organisers to ensure that when we are building a website or when we produce a website with a partner or on our own, maybe using a WordPress platform or something like that, that we're making it accessible to the widest audience possible in terms of ease of use? Is there any tools out there? Is there anywhere we can go and look to ensure that we're kind of hitting on those points?
Yeah, there are plenty of tools that are out there that are kind of free tools where anyone can actually go and check how good a website is. Google, for example, offers tools that will tell you how quickly your website is loading, whether it's compressing images correctly, blah, blah, blah. And that ultimately impacts the experience. It'll even analyze it for you kind of mobile or web, or desktop, sorry. There are other things that you can do to ensure that I mean, I think there are just some design principles. I'm not a designer myself, but kind of any UI UX person can sort of sit down and tell you that. And it may be worth consulting someone. You know, if you tend to do these sort of things in-house and you don't have a designer who's in charge of that and who's specialized in UX, it may be worthwhile to consult with someone once or twice to tell you, to make, let's say, cleaner interfaces, present information in small bits, and then, of course, think about the mobile experience, depending on what sort of events you're running, and if you know how many people are using mobile app or website, then you can sort of think about whether it's worth to design for mobile and how. But I would say, kind of, well, from what we've seen, what the things that tend to work well are clean presentation, don't put too much information in one place, don't crowd things, sort of that kind of stuff.
You guys got any more tools or information that people can look at for accessibility, etc.?
I don't know so much about the tools, but one thing I would say about is about adoption. Your whole point of doing this is you want to engage with people, so you shouldn't force people to have to consume content the way you dictate it. You should give people the choice. So things like mobile native apps, websites, they're all different ways of consuming information. So you want to try and offer, and if you can do it cost effectively, you want to be able to offer people as many ways of consuming your content as they can. And then actually the most important thing to consider, which often gets overlooked, is what is the actual content. Again, I've seen so many clients who invest and they spend a lot of time on what platform, what technology, how are we going to bring this in, and they spend less time on actually what the nature of the content is, how it's written, is it engaging, is it meaningful? Because ultimately, these are just tools, they're just channels to market. What you're actually trying to do through all of these, I'm assuming, is change behaviour, trying to influence people. And actually, that all comes back down to what you say and how you say it. So it's content that should actually be, I know we talk about content is king, but actually, it is actually true. And these are all just delivery tools. And then the type of delivery tool is dictated by, we go back to why, budget, tracking, how much reporting do you need, all those types of things.
So do you find, Chris, that there's more engaging content out there than others? There's video work, there's big pictures work, there's long form editorial work, short blog post work. What's the theme that runs across it all that these guys can then use as part of their websites to make them, user friendly, engaging?
I mean, it's very easy to generalize, but actually it totally depends. We work across multiple industries, and all of those industries consume in different ways. If you're, as I said earlier, if you're in entertainment, video works really, video does tend to work in general really well. But for instance, if you've got a very IT literate audience, then you can actually expand more because they want to consume that information. So it really is dependent on the marketplace, the nature of the people that you're talking to, because they'll all want to consume in different ways. And actually, you touched on it earlier. Age profiles have massive bearing on the way that you talk to people and the way you deliver content.
Okay. Event websites, in my opinion, also seem to be one of those things that people scrap and replace every single year. Go straight back to the drawing board as soon as the event finishes. We need a new design, we need a new format, we need new everything. And it seems to be typical of, I suppose, especially in my generation, of replace, not necessarily repair. Is that the way to go? Should we be starting back at the drawing board, or is there another way that we can do things to make things better?
Did it work? Why change if it's not broken?
Because we've got some clients that do basically just reuse the website because it does the trick for them. Like, some of our clients, it can be very basic. Like, all it's got is 4 pages, your home page, so like, say, the important information, registration page, a venue and travel page, and a contact us page. And I know, like, with one particular client, we've had that for a number of years now, and they like it. It does the job basically for them. So, like, say, it's not broken, they like it, it's cost effective, so they use it. But then there are the other clients that, every year or every event, basically, they do want to change it. They want something new, just to, I suppose, look like, they're refreshing themselves and get people excited by coming to the event.
Is there a right way or a wrong way, do you think? Is there one way that's better?
I don't think there is right or wrong. The clients or the people, everyone's different, I suppose. And with this particular client that does reuse the website, when they do a larger event, then they might go and do something more bespoke, and they want us to, and do something much better, engage the audience more, and everything. Use more features and everything. But I think if it is just a standard event, then it's working. It's fine.
I mean, if I can just jump in
absolutely.
on that. So, like, from our experience, because we work with different sorts of clients, and we've noticed that actually, if we're working with an event that is a brand, right, that event and kind of new stuff happening at that event, new format, new information, new content, and so on, is often signified by having, or signaled, let's say, by having a new website. So we often find that clients who have a brand event, an event that is a brand, basically, they will often go for a new website. If we look more into the kind of associations and corporate world, then there it's not so required, because each individual event is not necessarily a brand. Each of those events delivers different kind of value. You don't have to sort of necessarily market them in the same way to the people who go there. You are looking more at a functional purpose for the website and for what's provided behind it. So in our experience, there isn't right or wrong. I agree with these guys, absolutely. I think it comes down to why, as Chris was saying. It definitely does come down to why. But what we've seen is that's what I said is what we've seen is that kind of situation.
I asked the question on purpose because I've heard both sides of the argument. With Event Tech Talks, we've actually got one website that delivers microsites for each event, and they all have a very similar, well, they follow the same format, so it's very familiar for people returning to know where to register, where to get the information, where to get the agenda, how to interact with it. But the event is set out to be a year-long event, so I think that is what is expected. And I would assume that working with Event Powwow again next year, there'll be a slight refresh to the design, maybe the layout to bring some new life into it, because I think that is what people expect after a year of events or a yearly event, is some kind of refine. What the other side of things that I've found is that people argue that a total revamp of everything often leaves a lot of users who have experienced the event for the first time, maybe the year before, having to relearn where to find the information that they had, maybe even interact with the information that they found useful last year. Menu items can move, content can move, and in some cases that can actually be detrimental, because then there's a frustration there of people not being able to find the information that they want, or even understanding if the event's of value again for them this year. So I did ask that question. I agree. I think it's based on, the only question of right or wrong is probably based on the evaluation of what worked from the previous year, and then refining that. I'd like us as an industry to get into the habit of refining things and making things better rather than scrapping stuff and starting from the beginning. And I know it's a digital product, but it still seems very wasteful. Matt, do you want to answer the question?
Just a quick one. There we go. This microphone bit. Don't you on Event Tech Live take your site down at the end of each event temporarily?
We do, yeah.
Why?
I think back to my point earlier, my opinion is that we've gone through a process of, we've changed supplier for one. So that was one reason. Obviously, the design that we had previous to last year's was no longer available to us because we moved supplier. So that was the change in design that time. And then through a process of refinement with the guys at Expo Platform, we looked at a new format that would actually bring information much more to the forefront in kind of a single to twofold page, so that people weren't digging as deep into the website to find the information that they wanted. And ultimately trying to find out through a process of what's important to people. What's working for us is having the event brochure right on the homepage. People go and can find that really easy. The registration button, although that's not active yet, that comes later in the year. People understand where they can subscribe to newsletters and stuff. And most importantly, actually, the biggest thing that we're finding is the video from last year's event as a highlight reel. People are clicking on that straight away to understand what they could potentially see this year from last year. So that's the process. But honestly, working with these guys again, maybe slight tweaks to the layout just to make it a little bit more sweeter. I don't feel that we would change it again. Event industry news, I suppose, is an event website. We don't change that on a day-to-day basis. It goes through a process of looking at it, refining it, making it better. The CMS, everything that runs behind it is exactly the same as it was since day one. And that to me is also an element of staff and training and all that kind of stuff helps there. We're not trying to implement new things for all the team members to understand and learn and that kind of stuff.
I can jump in and say that it's not exactly the same, but because it's also a learning process for us. So as Adam is sort of thinking about how it's laid out and how things are working for him and when the user interacts with the website, on our end, we're kind of analyzing the data and we're saying, okay, here are things that could be done better based on the interactions that happen inside. What can we do to provide an experience that take the good things of what worked last time and then evolve on them and then kind of find a problem. If there were any issues, find out how we can kind of eliminate them and move on. So I would say that the attitude of kind of improve, don't replace is good because it allows, if you're working with another supplier, right, it allows that supplier to actually, depending on their mindset, it would allow the supplier to kind of improve what they offer you and create a much more synergistic relationship with you as the organizer because they will learn if they're willing to how to provide a much better service and how to cater to the values that your event is offering. If you switch suppliers all the time, you're going through the learning process all the time, everybody, your whole team, the users, and then again, you kind of, you can strike in or out with how willing that supplier may be in terms of kind of working with you rather than just providing you stuff.
Yeah. There was probably, if I expand on that, two other reasons or two other avenues to where we came to the design that we've currently got, and it's even still in the processes of being tweaked at the moment. I'm a strong believer in don't try to invent steel. So I go and look at, other world-leading events, what they're doing with their event websites. We're a small team, but they've got bigger people, lots more insight, lots more data. They've been running their events for longer. So I go and I interact with those other world-leading events and see what they're doing and take away the bits that I think might work for our event in terms of that process. So that's one of the biggest things for us is kind of looking out there at what else is working for other people in the industry in terms of their event websites and trying to incorporate that into what we do.
I think the one thing I would say is I think it's fairly safe to assume there is a solution out there for everybody. You just need to decide what solution you want, right? And a lot of that will come down to the budgets. We talked about the why. I personally, I don't understand where a lot of these apps have come from. In the sense of they're in the UK, they're targeting a market that isn't like the American market, but they've been developed for an American market. So in my own mindset, a lot of events in this country are 50 to 200 people. If you look at the principle of that, most apps and most websites can't justify those types of budgets. But yet, if you're inviting 50 people, they are the most important 50 people you've got. So why would you alienate them just because it's not a 1,000-seater event that justifies spending on an event and an app? So to a certain extent, that is why Event Powwow was developed, because of single CMS, single sign, single update, and keep it to a very low cost base. But some people might look at that, and you can brand it how you want, but some people might look at that and go, yeah, but it doesn't have enough tracking, or it hasn't enough reporting, it hasn't enough. Well, that's fine. Then you move up, and so does the budget, and so does the integration, and so does the requirement that you've got to purchase. So I go back to what I said. There is a solution out there for everybody. There are lots of different providers across webs and apps and all the rest of it. You just need to know what your requirement is and make sure you don't waste your budget and have this. I described it earlier. You buy this silver, nice, beautiful thing, but once you get it, you realise every so often you have to polish it. And if you don't have the people to polish it, it's going to tarnish. So
we've got some questions from the audience here that have been asked through the Me Too platform, so everybody's using the app. That's good to see. We're going to go through the questions in order of what people have voted up. So we've actually got here one from Finn. Well, starting off on a good one here. Why is there so much hate for non-native apps? Maybe that should just be why is there so much hate for apps?
Yeah.
I can sort of from who? They didn't specify who hates the apps. Is it the suppliers or the organizer or the users?
In Finn's defence, I think there is a big question or a big debate or lots of conversation around apps, the value of apps, the adoption of apps, are they even worthwhile? There's a hell of a lot of companies out there delivering apps, all offering different elements, or say that they're potentially better suited for your event than others. So I think there is misunderstanding maybe within the industry. But funnily enough, each year at Event Tech Live, consistently every year, when people have registered for Event Tech Live, the number one thing that people are interested in is event apps. So the interest is there. Maybe the why has not just been worked out, Chris.
Okay.
We're
in marketing, we deal with perceptions, and I think there's a big perception issue here. And we go back to, if people don't like apps, it's usually because they've had a bad experience. Or one of the biggest problems is that people adopt apps as something they want to offer, and then they forget the simple things like telling people about them, communicating. I mean, how many times have you, as a crowd, how many events have you gone to and actually received something 1 month before, 1 week before, and 1 day before, trying to promote the app, reminding you of the app? And they don't. It doesn't happen because the people who organise them haven't got all their ducks in a row. They haven't thought about how they're going to integrate this technology into their own systems in order to be able to deliver it. So then when you get to the event, you didn't know it was there. You get it. They haven't really thought about the content. So there's lots of reasons why people don't like apps. But then to the counter of that, there are some really great apps out there that have been promoted correctly, do understand their target audience, do have relevant content, and do engage and have ways of collectively engaging, and they work. But let people consume the way they want to.
Just as a show of hands, has anybody actually used an event app at an event that they were impressed by or found value in? Okay, how many people in the room have used an app that they were disappointed in it delivering what they thought they were going to get?
Wow,
that's interesting. So we definitely need to do a survey on that afterwards. The next question down is possibly, coming to understanding the value of apps. How do these guys measure the success? Is it just on app downloads? Is it on clicks? Is it how can these guys measure the success of delivering an app for their event?
One thing, basically, because we're doing an event last week actually, and I was just looking at the stats today before I came here. So yeah, it's basically you can do your tracking, like who's downloaded it, who's logged in. But other stats I was looking at as well is actually, did the audience engage in that app as well? So some of the features we had on the app were basically polls. So again, I was looking at the stats, right? How many people actually took part in the polls? And, if you see sometimes when I'm looking at the stats, it'll be very low kind of thing. And then you're thinking, right, why was that kind of thing? The one I was looking at today basically was quite high though. So, there's a lot of people that was engaged in the apps. Same with asking questions through the apps. There was over 250 questions asked through the app. So, that's a great success, because I'm sure if you ask someone, right, have you got any questions during a Q&A, would you get 250 people putting their hands up in the room to ask those questions? So, that's a great, I think, measure. And basically we also did some fun elements on the app as well. We did like a game and some incentives, and again you see high numbers taking part in the apps. It was basically because they had the opportunity to win some prizes, I suppose. But yeah, that was our measure of success, and we can go back to the clients and show them all of these stats. So hopefully they can see it did give them the return on investment.
I mean, can I just make one small comment? I mean, in our experience, we've seen that the install rate of apps, and I'm not talking just about kind of the apps that we've launched, but apps that at the events that we've been to, and we kind of visit and exhibit at a number of events throughout the year, they have a very poor sort of install rate, to be completely frank. And so I can understand if the question is, about hating the apps from the organizer side. I think it's not, oftentimes people don't engage enough. But I think the problem is that perhaps the idea behind apps was, at the outset, was wrong in the sense that we kind of, the tech people and maybe the organizer thought, great, everybody's going to have an app for every event. Everybody wants to install an app on their phone. And everybody went, well, I'm not sure I want to have an app for every single event I go to, for example, right? Because I need to switch between 50 different apps. So my concern, I think, about apps specifically is that I'm not sure that we've actually figured out how they work. What is the model to make apps work for events as they currently are? If they have a specific purpose, like lead scanning, for example, yeah, you're going to get like 100% install rate if you explain that to people who want to capture leads. But if you're just saying, here's my event app, I'm not sure how.
Can I just add to that? I think this is a big. I cannot see an app on a website and different digital technology. I can't see them as separate. To me, this is about digital engagement. However you engage with a person, and at the end of any activity, what you should be doing is evaluating what was your digital engagement performance across whatever methods those are. So again, we talk about allowing people to consume information. I'm not sure that it helps to say, well, the app was separate to the website or the polling or you have to look at it as an engagement program, and ultimately, did you engage with those people across all of your digital? Because they all come from a single budget, and that budget has to give a single return on investment. So I would look at the whole thing at the end of every event.
Would it be better for people to focus on a better mobile optimized experience with all the information that you would get within an app, and then use something like location technology and text messages to feed people information that they can just click on and go through to the website and find that information based on, they're closer to seminar 1, so let's see if they want the seminar information, and here's the web page with the seminar information at the moment. Is that a better or worse way to go? What's your opinion
Again,
on that?
We have to get people to walk before we can ask them to run. I mean, if we're not even getting people to download and engage with current apps as they stand, there's an awful lot of this sort of, not falsehood, but emperor's clothes. And I hear an awful lot of people at all of these events talk about the next technology, the next iteration. Technology is way ahead of where consumers are or where we are as companies. I mean, I don't know how many people here from event companies, but if you look at event agencies, I would argue that a lot of event agencies actually aren't up to speed with even where technology is today. And therefore, if we try to get people to take on even further technology, actually, who are we doing it for the benefit of? Everyone's always keen to hear the new technology, but do they actually adopt it? And I don't see that. So it's fine to talk about it, but actually we should be in the business of results. What are we actually delivering?
That would make an argument that the education piece is with the attendees. I think I would argue that agencies and organisers are quite au fait with the vast majority of technology out there. I think there is a question of the value of what it brings to their event. There's a cost versus do people actually get value out of this? My personal opinion is adoption is what actually the attendee. The question would be, are we effectively communicating the value of that person downloading that app for that event? Especially when exhibitions, what's the average dwell time at an exhibition? You might be able to tell me is less than 2 hours. For an average person, they're there for an hour and 40 minutes or something like that. Are they going to download an app in that time for that? Yeah. For me as well, the reason that event apps were actually born out were a replacement of the event brochure. It saved printing all these things. It gave event organisers the ability to change things, which I think there's a question up here quite close leading up to the event. I think even on Event Tech Live, we've changed things in the event app 24 hours before. I'm from the print management background. There is no way you're going to do that with an event brochure for 10,000 people. Not a chance.
But again, if you look at brochureware, it's functional. It serves a purpose. Maybe we just need to go back to apps serving a purpose and doing a good job at that. And then once you get the adoption rate up, then we can introduce because again, people have to justify budgets for all of this.
The problem for us, and Yeah, the problem for us has been that even looking, let's say you have a high level of engagement for an app, in my opinion, is like 20%. You're doing really well, like super well. But then if you go and analyze what are the parts of the app that people actually use, right? That's when a lot of the disappointment often comes, when you kind of got an app that does sort of everything, and then you see that people are looking at agenda and sort of, I don't know, speaker profiles, and pretty much that's it, right? The rest has like negligible value. So I think one of the things and I agree with the fact that apps are just another medium. It's a medium for the same sort of content, and there isn't any reason why an app should be a thing in its own right. An app is another medium to deliver content. Someone may choose to consume that content through an app, and that content for that person may be, the speaker profile or an agenda. But someone might choose to consume that content through a mobile website, which is why I would say it is not a bad idea at all to have a mobile website. Someone may choose not to consume that content at the event at all. Maybe they prefer the print. I've had plenty of conversations with visitors and exhibitors who've said, I didn't bother installing the app because I like the print, I like holding something in my hands, or I like the paper badge or whatever. So I think it will be different from event to event, but also we really need to kind of understand, where, if we're losing people at the door to the app, is it really worth thinking about what features it's got, or are we, and is it worth trying to convince people to install the app, or do we need to re-examine the model of, what the app delivers and how we deliver the message about what the app delivers? So those are kind of the questions.
So in answer to your question, Matt, it looks like for another 6 to 7 years we might still be debating what event apps do and the value of them. There's one question on here that's been asked by Johnny that I've actually been quite interested in, which mentions search engine optimization. It's not something that we hear a lot about in the events industry, but ultimately we're in the business of our website being our brochure and actually relying quite heavily on SEO. And sometimes changing a website, starting from scratch, can have quite big ramifications on that kind of level of things, because Google's coming along, it's having to re-index, or search engines are having to re-index, re-understand the event website. If that's changing on year, then that also has an effect on history, from my understanding. What are some of the things that these guys can make sure that's getting done by themselves or a third party to ensure that their ranking, which is quite valuable to them, is kept intact? Mykyta, do you want to maybe answer that?
Yeah, sure. I think one of the nice things to do is actually work with the same supplier and work with kind of, if they have a platform that sort of has, even if you're building a new website, if that's contained in the same sort of container and it's got the same IP address and the same URL and so on, then and you've got similar sort of tags around it, there's no reason why a search engine should just say, this is a completely different sort of thing, let's start from scratch. Right. So that continuity is actually important. This goes back to sort of why not scrap and start over and sort of carry on. So I think that's definitely one thing. And of course, as an event evolves, which every event that wants to succeed should evolve to some extent, things may change in terms of SEO. So the terms or the meta tags that you were using yesterday may not be the tags that you want to be using tomorrow. So there should definitely be some way for you to influence that, whenever you feel that you need to make the change. So those would be the two things I would sort of say.
Okay. We've got tons of questions, which you guys will be here around after to answer if anybody wants to get with these guys in the networking area and ask individually. To finish things off, though, we have got a bit of hopefully a fun quiz. Just something to lighten the mood, because I knew we'd get onto event apps. So if the guys want to bring up, how many event app suppliers, sorry, before we start this, if anybody wants to get involved in this, then just open the Event Tech Talks app, go into Me Too, you should see the actual poll come up. I'll give you 60 seconds or so to be able to take part, and then we'll start things up. Once it goes on to the next slide, that question will be done, so if you want to take part, just make sure you've got the app. So if we'll start it off, how many... Oh, no, it's gone. It's good. We will make you download this app. This is actually a web app today, but if I'm honest, we've taken the web app URL off.
No, I mean the poll.
Oh, the poll.
Event apps, including web apps, or just event?
This is event app suppliers.
Right.
So how many event app suppliers do people think there are globally?
my answer under the table.
GS are also an event app supplier, I'll remind you, Matt.
Is it everyone who claims they have an app, basically?
All right, that's interesting. Okay, let's go to the next question. So, 79% of people aged 18 to 44 have their smartphones with them for how long each day? This is an interesting one because this, to me, gives an argument that 24 hours, literally glued to your ear.
What do you mean by with them, though? Is that like, what if it's by the bedside? Is that with you? Or?
I do have all the sources available for people afterwards, which gives further explanation. Okay, that's interesting as well. So yeah, literally nobody has their phone with them for less than 8 hours. That's mental, isn't it? That's what people relate. Okay, let's see the next question. What is the word app shortened for? Okay. I'm actually going to track back and explain each answer for each question because I'm not sure if it's actually going to come at the end. But in terms of event app suppliers, there are actually 145 globally. That's what's recorded currently, and that was actually recorded by submissions from Event Manager blog through their Event App Bible, 145 plus. Out of those people from 18 to 44 actually have their phones with them 22 hours a day. I'm not sure what they actually do with the other 2 hours, to be honest with you. That's the question. Yeah.
I think it averages out if you've left it somewhere and forgot where it was. Across the year, it averages out to 2 hours a day. That it wasn't with you.
It's probably the 2 hours. It's probably the 2 hours a day you lose it. And on the actual, what does app stand for? Which, if you guys are suppliers in here, you should know this. It actually stands for application software. That is the proper terminology, apparently. Okay, next question. How many apps were on the Apple App Store when it first launched? Okay, the correct answer is 500. I'm really interested to see what those 500 were because Tinder definitely wasn't on there. Okay, a bit more focused on websites in general, which is actually some really interesting insight for anybody who's looking at designing a new event website or delivering an event website. We go to the next question, please. What do you think attracts people's attention more on a website, images or text? Okay, 71% of you are wrong. According to a report by a website called DreamGlow, text attracts more people's attention based on heat mapping than the pictures do. Generally because you've got headlines, you've got bolded text, you've got italic text. Text generally dominates the web page, and there's nothing to say that an image is actually going to appear above the fold. So that's how that ends up being.
Is it because there are so many images as well? The odd line of text catches your attention.
Those ad heavy websites. Okay, let's go to the next question. What do visitors spend most time looking at on your website? Clue, it's not text.
One is wishful.
Yeah.
Right. 4 is sad. Yeah.
That's very interesting. 84% of you are absolutely right.
It is.
Most people spend time looking at the menu in terms of navigating where they are and where they want to go on your website. I wouldn't have thought that at all, but...
Which doesn't say a lot for the content, let's be honest.
Maybe it's how do I get away from this website?
I wonder if it says a lot about how kind of intuitive things seem for most websites. If you kind of land on a website and you spend most of your time trying to figure out where to go. Or
Well,
how to
like,
get there.
I'll share the link to this report as well, because that again was by a website called DreamGrow, content marketing and marketing for publications. So there's probably more information there that I can provide. And last but not least, which side of the web page gets most attention? You're doing well. 83% if you're right. We actually read in an F pattern, apparently. Read from left to right, unless maybe you're from a country that reads right to left, and then that would be the other way around. But yeah, left to right. So put your most important content from the left, unless it's top right, and then that actually performs really, really well, except most websites, unless they're event websites, have an advert there.
Interesting though that most event websites have the reg button top right or on the right side.
I feel like we've been conditioned almost to look for like all the settings, and the super important stuff is on the top right.
Yeah.
And then you read left to right, and you've got all the kind of titles and everything on the left.
Yeah.
So the on the Event Tech Live website, the video is on the left-hand side for a reason.
We've actually gone for kind of like a T. We've gone for quite a lot of information across the top with menu, and then the information is actually split evenly down the rest of the page in tiles. Somebody else knows a lot more about that and told me that was good, so that's why I went with that. We will bring up a slide that tells us the top 10 people who actually got those that information right, and we'll print a t-shirt up or with Event Tech Talks for the winner or something like that. That'll take those guys a couple of minutes. Matt's asked me to do a selfie apparently for Global Exhibition Day, which is this thing over here. How do you want to do that?
You do it with the room. You do it from up there and we hold it in the here.
Yeah.
So Global Exhibitions Day, by the way, is done by UFI, which is a global association for exhibitions, and they promote on the 7th of June a bit of a celebration of what we all do in exhibitions. So they're trying to get people in to take pictures and show their support of it, that kind of stuff, which is why we're asked to do that today if we can.
So I'll tell you what, if everybody wants to, if they're not udging a bit, you three go down there, hold the thing, and I'll take a picture and then we can share that on social.
Sounds good.
Do you want me to do it on yours? No. It's really awkward now.
Can I borrow your sign?
Of course you can. I'm going to take a pano.
You're not keen. In this picture.
Absolutely. We feel separated now with you guys in your white shirts.
Arms are on.
At least mine isn't tucked in this time.
Maybe a big fat tadpole.
It's not a reflection.
Okay, guys, are you guys ready with the quiz winners? Maybe, maybe not. 1 second. Just so everybody knows, this content will be available on our YouTube channel on Event Industry News afterwards if you want to share it with any friends, colleagues, watch it back. By all means, also feel free to comment on there if you agreed or disagreed with anything. So apparently, yeah, anonymous. Damn it, that didn't work very well, did it? So we'll go with Matt. Apparently you won, other than anonymous. So, unless it's somebody who knows who they are as anonymous. Who was the 3 anonymous people? Somebody's also gone with anon, obviously as a shorter version. We'll try and figure out who that was and then communicate that with them afterwards and give them a little prize and stuff. Thank you to our panelists for joining us at this session of Event Tech Talks. If you guys, like I said, have got any more questions for them, grab a beer with them outside. We've got beers, refreshments, teas, coffees, etc. Yep, beers and wine. So yeah, thanks guys.